Good evening and a very happy Diwali. Still, Diwali is going on. Okay, and of course, as the season changes, our moods also change. Weather changes, our moods change. Today, in particular, our topic is about dealing with moody people. So, how do we overcome and accept them? And probably it's a moment to reflect for my own self. How do I overcome my own moods so that I can deal with other people's moods? So I'm not going to discuss more on this, but Sister Moira is with us from Argentina, who is going to share on this topic. Just to give you a brief introduction, welcome to Sister Moira. Sister Moira Lowe was a surgical nurse and also studied museum administration out of her passion of her art. She has been meditating with the Brahma Kumaris for over 35 years. She is currently the director of the Brahma Kumari Centers in Argentina. So welcome to Sister Moira. Previously, she was going to be with us, but unfortunately she couldn't. But today is an opportunity for us to welcome her. So over to Sister Moira.
Thank you very much for this invitation, and it is my great pleasure to be with you. The last time I was going to be with you, but I happened to get our friend the COVID, which was very mild. It was just like a cold, so it didn't really hit any. It was very gentle with me. I kept thinking for myself, COVID is a friend. It's going to bring me a gift. And it gave me the gift of a lot of time for myself to reflect and to go deeper. So thank you for this invitation. And when I was given this topic, I must confess that I thought, well, what an interesting opportunity to think about my own moodiness. And I was thinking we would normally think how to deal with moody people, but as you were saying, it starts with myself. How fluctuating is my mood, and what is it that makes me fluctuate? So moodiness is this change in our mood that makes us unpredictable, it's like being temperamental. And in a way, when we're unpredictable, we become unreliable. People wouldn't know, where I'm at. What am I going to come out with next? And sometimes moodiness can be kind of occasional because someone is going through some rough moment. And so you can expect that. But when it is a recurring behavior, then moodiness might have a pattern, and it would probably stem from avoiding to dig deeper into the self to deal with anger and resentment. So a very clear sign of moodiness, whether it's in myself or others, is the desire to control others. So moodiness can have many different expressions, and when we become moody, we get stuck in it's like self-centered, and we want things to be done our way, and we get upset when things don't work out the way we want. In Argentina, we have this music called tango. So you think that the world should tango to your rhythm, and so we tend to blame others for our own frustration, and it works for me if the others accept blame. And then moodiness has this side of being manipulative. And when someone, for example, at work is moody and they're very short-tempered, so people start developing like behaviors that are pleasing that, because they, for, however, would like to restore or preserve harmony. So you become subservient to someone's moodiness. And when we do that, we in a way encourage further uh, further manipulation, actually. So the more we tolerate this, the more we encourage it to grow, whether it's within myself or somebody else. So uh, we need to some tips that we can look at in terms of what to do. We need to try and understand what the other is going through when it is somebody else, or understand about myself. What are the emotions underlying this expression? And sometimes we find ourselves as adults mistreating people, and it being just an expression of some frustration of some event or some experience of my childhood. And it's a very common thing, because maybe we get upset for very little things, or we are always in a defensive mode, or we in a threatening mode for others, because of something that we haven't dealt with from our past. So there are like open wounds that give this, at any time they are expressed in this way. So one thing we can do is, people who are moody don't want to be fixed. They want to be understood. And sometimes when you see someone is upset or is suffering, because they may be dear to you or close to you, and you would want them to overcome that. So we tend to try and fix things and give advice. And sometimes it only makes things worse, because people sometimes just need to be heard, or they just need to be understood. So will you unmute? I think I am unmuted. You can't hear me?
Yes, we can hear Sister Moira.
Oh, okay, because I was seeing that someone was saying.
Yeah, I'll check it.
Okay, so this is something that it could be like a response, like trying to, tell people what to do. And if it's, sometimes teenagers become moody, because at that age, their reactive nature is so alive, really. And we try to tell them what to do, and it only makes things worse. So they answer in any way, and they become very moody. And then they'll become more stable when they're youth. And so another thing that is important when we want to deal with, whether it's myself or somebody else, is like, take responsibility for what is under my control, because we're not responsible for anyone's moodiness, and we may have to live by it. Sometimes it depends the situation. If you're at work, or if it's a family member that, it's a parent, or your couple, or your children, and we have to live together. So sometimes it's a good idea to take a break and give yourself some time. And I don't mean by this to avoid someone's temper, but it's just giving myself or yourself a bit of oxygen, a bit of space. So to do something, because otherwise we become too either obsessed or too sensitive, and it wears out the relationship to an extent that it becomes a huge conflict. And sometimes just taking, stepping aside a bit to take your, have your own space, take your own time, have some rest, and do the things that you like, and give yourself a break from, moody personalities. And this thing of taking responsibility, we can only take responsibility for that which is under my control. I can't take responsibility for anything that is not in my control. So many times we take a lot of guilt from moody personalities. And this is something we need to look at. Why do we do this? And so we have to learn not to take things personally. And so there's many different angles from which we could see this. And something interesting that I learned in terms of dealing with difficult personalities is that we try to be empathetic and understand what is the person going on, but we can also do something that is called reverse empathy. And that is, if empathy would be stepping into the other person's shoes to feel what they feel like, this reverse empathy could be like looking at my own life, moments in which I was under the same influence. How did I feel? To try to understand what it is that I want and what it is that I need. So this takes this closer to understanding in what way to interact, what is it the other one needs. It's not like feeling their pain, but trying to identify, because we have all been moody at some point. Some people are very moody, others occasional, others have a pattern for this behavior. So different things, and all this brings me to thinking about how moody am I? And I want to share with you an experience that brought me very close to this. Many years ago, I used to have a very severe anemia. And it was a time of my life I was traveling a lot. So I was very arrogant, and I was thinking, I'm a powerful soul in a weak body that follows me around the world. And suddenly I realized that my anemia was chronic and severe, and that it could become leukemia if I didn't attend it. So that year, a friend of mine from Cambridge came to visit Argentina. She was a scientist, a Spanish woman. And we used to have very interesting conversations. So I said to her, Antonia, this year I'm going to put some time to take care of my anemia, because it's not healing, and it's quite severe. And she said to me, so, like back of her head, she said, when the anemia of the soul is healed, the anemia of the body will automatically disappear. And I thought, wow, I wonder what anemia in the soul is. So what I did, it made me think very deeply. And the question that I asked myself was, what weakness in me have I taken the most pain or sorrow from? That took me right all the way back to my childhood. And I tried to identify what, moments in which I experienced pain or sorrow. And what I discovered was that I valued justice. So whenever something was not fair, I would fight for it. And whether it was for the tricycle with my brother, or whether it was, at school with my schoolmates, or with my friends. And I realized that there was a pattern. There was a pattern that whenever something was not according to what I thought it had to be, I would fight for it. And I realized how that was repeating all along. So I came to this conclusion that anemia in this soul was anger. Anger. Maybe if you did that exercise, you would say that anemia for yourself is something else. But for me, that's what I discovered. And I realized that that was my greatest weakness. And so I thought, wow, this is something. And I remembered Antonia's words, if you overcome the anemia of the soul, the anemia of the body will disappear. So I thought, well, and when we sincerely want to change, I always say to myself that an angel walks past you and helps you. And that happened to be the case. And so a friend came to Argentina, and he had just published a book on overcoming anger. And he gave me this kind of hot from the oven book. And there I learned many things, many, many things. And he has this gifted way of writing that makes you laugh of the things that could be most painful. And so I'm talking about someone that you may know in the UK. That's Mike George. And he has this book, Don't Get Mad, Get Wise. But I learned so much from that book. And I started applying and observing how to overcome this. And I was able to learn something that really changed my life. And that is that something simple that Mike said. It was like, nobody does anything to me. They do things, but not to me. And so he said it like this. He said, things happen, but they don't happen to me. And this is to do with what I was saying before as a tip. Like, don't take things personally. And we tend to either accept blame or project on others. So when we look deeply in what is happening when we become moody, then we understand what happens with others when they become moody as well. And so these fluctuations of my mood that make me unreliable. And so I learned about the nature of a reaction and what is it that triggers a reaction. So I would like to invite you to do a little exercise with me, if you're okay with that. And I'd like you, let's observe what it is that happens when we react and why do we react. And so I'd like to ask you to sit comfortably and breathe deeply. And as you exhale, let go of any discomfort or tension that you might be holding in your shoulders, your face, your neck. So let's breathe deeply and let go any discomfort. And now let me take my attention inward. Let me come to my inner world, to this sacred space behind my eyes, where I can observe myself. There I am, with myself, in my own company. And now I will observe the screen of my mind. And I see the scenes of my life, the way I express myself, how I interact with people, my coming and going. And I'm the observer. And now I will focus on a scene which typically provokes me. Let me emerge that on the screen of my mind. Maybe someone pressing my buttons, maybe a situation, something unexpected that happens every now and then, to which I typically react. So I see that there is something provoking me, and I see my reaction. So I'm the observer, I'm not questioning anything. I'm the observer of a scene in my mind. I am detached, unaffected by it. But I can clearly see. So I see what is provoking me. And I see my reaction. And now I observe the words I speak when I react. And now I observe my attitude behind my words and the feelings that my attitude express and the thoughts behind my feelings, my intention. So I'm fully aware. And now I will allow this scene to gradually disappear in the horizon of my mind until I no longer see it. And I will come back to a place of calm and coolness. I'll come back home to myself. And I allow this calm energy to spread around my body, my shoulders, my neck. And I come back with my attention to where I am. And now, let us reflect together. What do we feel that was the trigger of my reaction? Did I react because something or someone provoked me? Was the trigger of my reaction my words? Did that trigger reaction? Was it my attitude? Was it the action that triggered reaction? Was it my thoughts or my feelings? What do you think triggers reaction? If you want, you can write it on the chat. Internal feeling popping up, Manoj. Okay. Anything else? What is feelings? Okay. Thoughts. Okay. Any other suggestion? What makes me react? Issues, memories. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Because sometimes, yes, conflict, internal conflict, thoughts about the situation or person, the surprise of being hurt. It's the mind's interpretation of an experience that causes emotions. Yes. Given situation, self-blame, people watching me for no reason, lack of understanding. Yes, thank you, thank you. Okay, yes. So emotional immaturity, dancing behind me, impatience, okay. So normally we tend to think when it's my moodiness, then I tend to think that I am reacting because something, someone said something, ego comes under attack, yes. So we would normally think that, if someone is being aggressive to me, then this is why I react, because this is what I feel. Thoughts came, then feel sad. Yes, this is the answer, pretty, because actually we react, or the seed of reaction is at the level of thought, as you're saying there. So the thought comes. It is what I think of what is provoking me that creates a reaction in me. Because let's say I have someone here who is provoking me, the typical one that, presses the buttons for which I react. And I remember when Mike said things happen, but they don't happen to me. So if I asked you, is it happening? You would probably say, yes, it's happening right there next to you, but it's not happening to me. Let's say this provocation is someone is insulting me or ignoring me. You know, I'm talking to someone and they're just texting along and being indifferent or not making eye contact. So it is a provocation, right? So that is happening, but it's not really happening to me. But if I think, how does this person dare behave like this? Or, maybe she's insulting me or he's insulting me. And I say, who does this person think she is or he is? So then because I'm thinking what I have heard, then probably I would feel offended, insulted, And so who should I forgive for hurting me? So someone said it, and then I thought about it, and then I felt hurt. So who hurt me? And the discovery that I made is that I can only hurt me, myself. So if someone said something and if I don't think about it, then I won't feel it. But if someone said something and I think about it, then who creates the feeling? Thoughts came and then I feel sad, as Priti was saying. No? So this is such a key and deep understanding to realize that the thought is the seed, and then comes the feelings. And then there's a cycle inside, because the way I feel triggers a lot of thoughts, and the way I think triggers a lot of feelings. But it all starts with my thought power. And this is something I cannot control what someone says. And maybe I'm exposed to this all day long at work, in the streets. Here in Argentina, people are so aggressive and so reactive. We are known to have huge egos in this country, So I could, if I'm sensitive, I could be, I could justify that I'm upset the whole day because either, people are pushy, in the queue of the supermarket, or the driving is wild. And so I would have a reason to be unhappy always. Yet that is happening, but it depends on what I think about what is happening. Then that would determine the way I feel. And this I find is so crucial, because then it really depends on me. It depends on me. And I remember many years ago, and when I say it depends on me, sometimes things become so, so intense in a conflict or a relationship that it becomes like unbearable. And you would say, well, it depends on me. What can I do? I remember I went to Daddy Janki. Many of you might know her. She was the head of Brahma Kumaris and left us a couple of years ago at the age of 104. And Daddy's wisdom was always brought some light into our lives. So I went to her with this, hurt heart, broken heart, because I felt that I was mistreated, and there was a big conflict with a sister who was living with me at our Buenos Aires center many years ago. This was like 25, I would say 30 years ago. And so Daddy, she listened to me, and I went on and on about how upset I was. And Daddy said, well, why don't you move? Why don't you find a place that will allow you? I was engaged in a life of, still am, in a life of service, as the Brahma Kumaris, teaching and traveling and this and that. And she said, move to a space where no one and nothing can stop you from growing and moving on in your life of service. So sometimes we can think, is it necessary for me to be here? And with this, I'm not saying to avoid people. What happened really was that I did look for an apartment, and because I had to wait for some time before that was available, things at the center changed. And in fact, I was asked, don't go. So when we called Daddy and we said, I'll stay, Daddy said, okay, good, you passed your test, because I was ready to do something at a point in time that I couldn't handle it anymore. But then I was able to look back and say, okay, wait a minute, let's harmonize, let's do things in a different way. And that's what happened. So I stayed on. But this is something we can also think of, like sometimes a little space is necessary. Sometimes when a situation gets so worn out, we do need space. And I've seen Daddy separate some people for some time because that gives you a bit of space and you kind of, in your own energy field again, and that you're able to heal that. But this thing of taking full responsibility for how I feel, whether it's overcoming my own anger or dealing with someone else's anger and resentment in the form of their moodiness, is something that we need to look very deeply into, because then if I react or I feel sad because of what I think, then I can choose what I think. And then many times, I have also thought of so many aggressive behaviors that I have had myself. How then with time I realized they were reflecting things from my childhood that I hadn't become aware that they had become some form of trauma that was not dealt with and further healed. So for whatever reason we are upset, or we are, our mood fluctuates, or we have to deal with other people's mood, we need to tackle this and embrace it with a lot of love and introspection to see how deeply ingrained we have patterns of behavior that are recurring and that could be changed. So coming back home to the experience of being calm, of peacefully responding. One thing that I found very useful, as the Brahma Kumaris coordinator here in Argentina, I used to find that after our classes, our students used to come, like, do you have 2 minutes? Do you have 2 minutes? 2 minutes? And everybody talking to me together like this. And I tried to please people. And this would make me finally very irritated because, when people say, do you have a minute? They don't really mean a minute. They take 5. And so I would tell someone, okay, can you wait for a minute? And then it became 5. So they left angry. And I found that I was doing my best, but I was getting nowhere. And finally, I was getting angry. So what I found is that, I needed to take my time and to be able to manage and not allow things to overpower me to the point that I got exhausted and finally irritated. So my responses were harsh and sometimes aggressive. And so, I found myself saying to people, can we talk later? Can I call you later? Can you call me later? And rather than, trying to cramp everyone in at the same time because they all wanted to go and get an answer from whatever I had to tell them. And then another thing that I found very useful was when we're in conversations that we know that have a pattern, a recurring pattern of my temporalism, of someone else's, we reach a point in a conversation where things will not move on anymore. And then we get upset. So what I found was very useful was something I learned from one of our very big seniors in Brahma Kumaris. And I'll tell you a little story with her. She's called Sister Mohini. She's our regional coordinator in the US, and now she's the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris globally. And so I would call Sister Mohini, and I would call her and say, Sister Mohini, we have this plan in Argentina. Can we go ahead with this? And I would be very excited and wanting to have an answer. And I was in a way pushing her. And this was many years ago as well, a time when, long distance calls were very expensive. And So I would try to quickly get an answer, and she would very peacefully tell me, "Could you call me tomorrow?" And that would upset me. I said, I'm calling from Argentina, and all I need is a yes or a no, and she's telling me to call her tomorrow. And so, okay, Sister Mohini, so I'd call her tomorrow. And the next day I say, "Hello, Sister Mohini, have you thought about what we spoke about yesterday? So what do you think?" And so she says, "I think it's okay." And I would say to myself, why didn't she tell me that yesterday? And one day, because this was very much her pace, and one day I asked her, "Sister Mohini, when I call you, you always have me calling you again. And I just wonder why you can give me a straightforward answer." And she said something very interesting. And I took it as a blessing. And she said, "When I ask you to call me again, it's because I want to think deeply of the consequences of what I say will have in whatever you want to do. And I also want to fill my words with the power of blessings. Blessings are good wishes." So, and I thought about that, and you know what? Whatever she advised, I realized that it was very easy to carry out. And when we do things with good wishes and, the feeling of approval and blessings, it makes such a difference. So I thought, I should practice this because I'm sometimes very reactive like this. Sometimes it's even in a positive way, but it's not thoughtful and maybe not even powerful. So I started, taking pauses. And sometimes when I came into these conversations where I knew things would go in a direction where we wouldn't get anywhere, I would say, "Can we continue with this conversation tomorrow? Can I phone you later?" Sometimes people push you to get an answer, and your head may be somewhere else, and then you become snappy. And it's not what you want, but it's just that we are not handling pressure in such a way that we can be responsive rather than reactive and gentle rather than aggressive. and so and so this was something that was very useful to me, very useful. And I still do today. I sometimes leave things in a little bit of suspense. And now with WhatsApp, you get a message, people want an answer right now, right now. And suddenly you're going mad. So many different. We're sapping from one thing to another, so we could be moody very easily, and or even worse, not we don't respond because we get fed up, and so that's even worse. So I think that we have to kind of sense where my energy is at and what it is that I need. So what I found, and personally, I can tell you that I've gone a long way with my overcoming anger. Not completely, and I'm speaking from a place of learning and transforming, really. But I took a lot of benefit from my practice of meditation. And meditation being the space to observe the self and recognize the power and strength within the soul, but also acknowledging and recognizing all that needs to be transformed, that I need to let go. And sometimes it's not so easy because some patterns, I sometimes when we get angry, we think that's a sign of power. And we create an identity around that I'm a tough girl, But that's not really what I want to be. I really want to be peaceful and loving. So here I am being something else. So I also have taken divine help. I would say two things. The help of good company, and that is of people that don't please me, people that will talk to me from a pure heart and will able to, some people when they point out things to you with a true heart, you can take it at heart and it won't hurt because maybe it is about ego. and I'm able to change that. But so if we are under the company, if we make allies with people, criticizing others just to please my ego, this kind of company just reinforces my moodiness, and I won't get anywhere better. So I think that choosing good company, and good company is also the company of good thoughts, my own good thoughts, because I could be my own worst enemy as much as I could be my good friend. So that's one thing. But another thing is what I took most help from is from a divine source. And by this I mean the help of God, the help of the supreme or divine energy, that when we sit in meditation, when we go deep within ourselves and into enough silence, we can connect to the source of peace, the source of love, and very important, to a vision of someone who knows me and who only loves me. Because in the mirror of his eyes, I am able to recreate myself. Because sometimes our nature is so strong when we are moody that we think this is how I am, and maybe not. I don't have so much hope or faith that I can transform that. But when we look into the eyes of the one who only loves me, then I am able to allow myself to see myself and let go of all these learned behaviors. Any negative emotion is not original of the soul. It is a learned behavior that is not a part of my DNA, my spiritual strength. So slowly, slowly, we can overcome, and it does work. And sometimes I can only go as far as I can, but then I get extra help, a bit more energy, a bit more tolerance, and I get through situations which before would have been difficult. So I this is what I can tell you. Uh, so I would like to open a space for comments or any questions that you would like to, or any reflection that you would like to share about this.
Thank you, Sister Moira, for a wonderful sharing with your own personal experience about reaction. And I also like the exercise that you made us do, the reflective exercise, how our reactions are and where we stand with our reactions. There are a few questions that came up on the chat. How do you deal with some who has narcissistic personality disorder?
Well, I think we need to build our self-respect, because someone who is narcissistic will try and get everything done their way, will be loud enough to draw, get everyone's share of attention, and it's not so easy to deal with that. You're interrupted all the time when you're speaking. So I think that we have um, to be brave, and uh, sometimes, a narcissistic person will only speak about themselves. They only enjoy listening to themselves, and they get bored when they listen to others. So sometimes you have to kind of, become brave and put a limit to things and speak your voice and express your heart. And I think that also it's quite useful to share, how you're feeling, and maybe it's a good friend, or maybe it's your partner, or even a boss at work. But I think that we have to work a lot also on building our own self-respect and working on the understanding and acknowledgement of um, our own value, who I am, because otherwise you're kind of overridden by personalities that kind of ignore you or use you in a way to get things done their way. And so I think we need courage. I think that from being introspective and also realizing my own weakness. Why is it that someone can overpower me? It's only because I'm giving them permission or a space. And so maybe I'm shy, maybe I, you know, I have a lot of fear, and sometimes we become submissive to such personalities, and we, in a way, try to please them, to restore, to have their attention back, or to maybe we're afraid of their opinion. So we have to be brave, and at some point we have to put a break. And sometimes conversations are necessary. It depends the situation as well, especially at work, when you have to get your things done, and you know you need someone's attention, you need them to approve whatever you're doing or proposing. So I think it's very fair, but we have to be brave. We have to be brave.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There's another question. Of course, this is a similar to the topic of what you have already discussed, but maybe you might want to emphasize something more. How do we not let our partner's mood affect us? How to deal in living with our family?
Yeah, it's not easy sometimes, but I think it's something we can work on a lot, because being affected is connected to the fact that we want something from them. So we're in a mode of taking. Suppose we want someone's approval. Suppose we are depending on someone's affection. And so, and by this, I don't mean that we don't need to be loving in a family, but when I make myself dependent on someone, I will always be subject to their influence, because it's like whatever they want to express, or that's what I will take, and I will be influenced. So I think that we need to know ourselves deeply and understand that we ourselves have that love within. We are that love that we normally, it's about wanting others to appreciate me. You would want them to tell you how much they love you or how much they need you. Sometimes you become subservient and pleasing because you want to feel needed. So this makes us a slave, affectionately. And so we need to regain the freedom of love, because attachment is the bond. It's like a chain, and attachment is like a distortion of love. It's what we think love is when we forget who we really are. And so what I mean by this is that when we work within, when we do a little bit of spiritual, inner work, we come to know our own worth, and we come to know that we are a very powerful being. And maybe I don't feel powerful, maybe I feel very weak, but one thing is how I am now, and another thing is what I really am. So my state, my present state of being may be my energy may be depleted, and so I look outside of me what I really need to feel within. And this is where I feel like Raj Yoga, what is taught in the Brahma Kumaris, was so useful to me in bringing me back home to my own power base, to understand that I was searching outside, expecting, when we feel empty, we have expectations on others, and this makes us dependent. And so it's not that we want to have a kind of freedom that makes us completely, indifferent and independent from people. We will always be together, but we can be together in a loving way, and that requires me to be free again. And so I can only feel love when I am connected with what what I am at my core being. We are loving beings. We are loving beings. We are peaceful. We are true. This is the energy of the soul. And this may be like long forgotten. And because I'm always extroverted, always looking out, always, my identity is enforced in my image, in what I do, in what I have, in my reputation. And because I think I am this, then I, who I truly am, is lost, is forgotten. And it's true that we are professional people and we're busy people and we have lots of things to do and things to take care of and we relate to others. But our doing is not what we are. And our having is not the being. The being is the very subtle, powerful energy that gives life, even to this body. We are not even a body. So when we come back home to understand that I am very subtle, divine, refined energy that is peaceful, and then we can see the difference between our reactions and being calm. And we will discover that when we react, whether it's submissive, whether it's been affected by everything, or even the otherwise, I always lose. I lose. And so when I become aware that I have the energy, I am powerful, I am peaceful, then when we act in that way, then we can see the difference. No one can affect me if I am peaceful. Because when we become calm, we become clear. And we will know where the boundaries are. So nobody can tread on me if I'm peaceful. And when we are calm, we feel safe. And when we are calm, we are balanced. So we regain this ability to choose. You see, when we react, there's no choice. And then we think, what did I say? How come I said such a thing? And I feel regret. But if I am, if I become a little bit like Sister Mohini, how she paces her thinking, her words, the way she interacts. So then she fully owns herself. And then when we choose, we will choose the best. Because we give a space, we become like introspective, we give a space where a reflection is created. Reaction has no reflection. But if we give a little space, because we move back from the scene, someone is being bullying you or harsh with you, if you can step back a little bit. There's a little formula that I want to share with you that is like this. You go into a meeting and things are starting to become a little bit hot and unstable. So you can ask yourself, you see that your mood is changing. So ask yourself, what is going on? But don't think that you're asking what is going on in the conversation. You're looking at your mind. What is going on? So you say, I'm getting upset. And then you ask yourself, where is this happening? It's not in the conversation. It's in my mind. And if I ask myself, who is making this happen? Then I will tell myself, I am making this happen. I am getting upset in my mind because of these thoughts. And that will release the bomb. It won't, no, release, what's the word in English? I'm thinking in Spanish now. If a bomb was going to explode, it will not explode. So if we think before like this. We become the observer and think, how am I feeling? Who's making that happen? And where is it happening? You realize, so you release the other. They're free. They're free to do what they want, say what they want or not say. But I am now safe. I'm with myself, and I'm going to choose to do or not to do, to speak or not to speak.
Thank you. That's a beautiful explanation and exploring on how to balance. Okay, there are a couple more questions that came up is how do I identify the root cause of a problem? I think you have just answered that. Okay, where is the reaction coming from? When certain things attract me, I'll just finish the question. How do I identify the root cause of a problem when certain things attract me? Others I am able to let go and work on, but in this particular things, I get drawn too easily.
Mm, mm. Well, yes. Um, it's interesting to think of root cause because maybe, sometimes we are pulled to things and we don't realize that um, maybe it's out of my own emptiness, something that I'm trying to get from outside because I don't find that within myself. Sometimes reaction is what is is happening, and reaction is only the expression of an underlying fear that appears. It's like a smoke. Fear is like a smoke that, in my vision, my feelings, that appears when my ego feels threatened. When I feel threatened, I feel I'm going to lose something, so I react because I'm drawn to that. And so it's very deep. It's very deep. And
But I
I
think
think
we
that,
don't realize the ego most of the time.
right. You know, a friend of mine would say, you don't study at the exams desk, right? We have to practice before. Because so I would say that when we, if we have this daily interest in observing myself, like go within and know yourself a little bit more every day, then when we go within, we become the observer. And what does the observer see? The observer sees that there's like a personality that works under the power of duality. Let's say it's good and bad. But there's another side of me that is it's very pure. It is very powerful. It's very pure. It's peaceful. It's loving. And normally we are under the influence of duality. This is ego's domain. When we see things as good and bad, we can't see anything beyond that. So we're always in a polarity. So this is the ego's domain. And something beautiful that I tell myself is that ego will never observe the soul. It is only the soul who can observe the ego. Ego is an acquired behavior. Ego is just the emptiness of my self-respect worn out. when my self-respect has, drained away, that emptiness is my ego. As much as anger is peace, drained away from my consciousness. Anger is not an original behavior.
Yeah.
It's acquired, it's learned. And we can now come back home to the real me, who I am really. So this is where I think the silence of meditation and the company of God can help me so much. Because ego attracts me, pulls me out of me again and again. It has dominated my consciousness for births after births and for so long. So that's all I know, and I'm used to that. So I think I'm good and bad, but I really am not. I really am not. And so in meditation, when we experience silence to an extent that, that divine light can touch my heart, it will open my heart. and it will allow the expression of what is eternally in my heart, and that is pure love, true love. That is what we want, because that is what we are.
Thank you. Just before we go on to the meditation, I know time is kicking on so fast. I'll read this question. Maybe if you can just quickly answer that. How can we deal with the anger of young adults with special needs? And also, where can one start on getting better if the anger is such nature that comes suddenly and in a very strong doses with very little or no transition time?
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, reactions are so quick. And I know young ones are very challenging, especially millennials. So they're very, well, I don't know if you're referring to teenagers or even little children, but like, I think that for parents, it's not easy. It's a big challenge to deal with their anxiety, their uncertainty, and they're seeing a world that is not really an example of what they dream. So we have to be very, very loving, and sooner or later, love will do the job. But I think that first of all, you have to do for yourself. You have to really make your heart peaceful. And in this, I think that whatever you feel, whatever, if you need help, talking to people helps a lot. Find someone that you can trust, that that you can be very open with, and maybe share, what is your difficulty, and maybe explore why you get angry, because it's probably not to do with the children at all. Maybe it is with a child within the self that hasn't healed yet. So, and we just project, we are very short-tempered and not so patient with them. And that's okay. I mean, we can only do however much we can do, but we don't need to treat ourselves badly. I think we can take help. Sometimes psychological therapies do help a lot. I would say meditation helps the most. At least that's my experience. So maybe taking a meditation course will give you tools to be able to handle and to transform our own habits. Sometimes we just get snappy because we have the habit of doing so, and we don't know that that could change. Maybe we've lost hope on ourselves, but there's always, something we can do and explore our inner world and get back, get in contact with that amazing strength that is our real power, and allow the expression of that. So I would recommend giving yourself, especially when you get up in the morning, spend some time in meditation or silent time for yourself. Maybe you play soft music, maybe you read something that is positive, that is good food for your thoughts, and then spend time with yourself, talk to yourself, try and understand what is it that I'm going through right now, and then act upon that. But do take care. Don't allow anger to, pave your way, because peace is really at heart, just waiting to be seen and just waiting to be expressed.
Yeah, thank you. From that note, maybe it's a great opportunity for us to take 3 minutes to do a short meditation, Sister Moira, and then we can finish off. Yeah?
Sure. Well, I would like to ask you again, let's take that very comfortable and relaxed position, and we let go any discomfort, let go even of negative memories right now in your mind. Come to a safe space within yourself. Come within, come home to that sacred space behind your eyes. This is where I, the living being, the living energy in this body, this is where I am. I am the energy that is expressed through my eyes, through my smile. I am the energy that is expressed through my attitudes, my words, my actions. That is me, the living, conscious being, the being of light, spiritual energy. And I look deep within myself to sense and feel the energy of calm, the quiet stillness that lies within myself, that lightness, and where I am free from any influence, the core being, free from worry, free from fear, opinions. I am eternally a peaceful being, a very pure, loving being. This is who I truly am. And I allow the feeling of pure love to emerge, the energy of care, of giving, that nourishes everything I do, that gives life to my expression. This is who I am. And I will go deeper into silence, beyond anything physical or temporary, into a dimension of silence, where there is only peace, where I see myself as a being of light, just pure light. In the nakedness of peace. In the presence of divine energy, of the source of peace, of the Supreme Being, whose light reaches every corner of the soul of me. And I am open to His presence, to His love, unconditional love. This is pure love, the love that heals the wounds of my past, the love that sets me free, that allows me to be just me. I don't need to prove anything. I just need to be. I feel accepted. Totally accepted and loved. And with this deep feeling of joy for being who I am, I will come back with my awareness, and I will allow this pure energy to spread around my body into every cell. I will allow this peace to spread around my home, touch the lives of my dear ones too. And I hold this feeling of freedom to be who I really am, a peaceful soul, a loving being, a powerful being. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Sister Moira. It's really lovely to hear from you. I would like to share, in essence, in 3 lines about what you shared is nobody does anything to me. Okay. Be brave to break. Don't take to heart to hurt yourself. Okay. So, and another 3 things that to take the journey further to get off from the moody people is good company, divine source, let go of learned behavior. Thank you. Very beautifully shared. And as you're talking about Mike George, as the series is going on, some of you have already started listening to that. Last week, we had 1 session with Mike George. So next week, we are going to come again with back to session 2 with Mike George, emotional intelligence being wise. So join in. So don't miss the opportunity. So thank you very much, Sister Moira, again for joining us from Argentina. Om Shanti.
Thank you all. Thank you all and have a good night.
And
Take
there are
care.
lots of compliments in the chat. Thank you very much. And it's a beautiful exploration and experience. Thank you. Om
Thank you.
Shanti.
Om Shanti.